Hey YouTube, Rick Wilson here. This is part 4 of Mom's Hawaii plane crash that they survived. This is kind of an unexpected part, okay? The reason the title of the video is Mom Speaks from the Dead was I was supposed to interview Mom about her plane crash for YouTube 2 weeks after she died. We had a date and then suddenly she got ill and went in the hospital and died. And But 10 years ago, I did interview her, but that computer I had that on got hit by lightning and destroyed, and the video was lost, and that was like 10 years ago. So I started making these videos about her plane crash, reading from her book that she wrote. And you know, that's what the first 3 parts are, and the newspaper clippings, and you know, you can go back, and anybody hasn't watched them should go back and watch them. It's a hell of a story about the plane crash into the volcano in Hawaii, and they survived. They're the only people that ever survived. But now you get to hear the story from Mom herself. I can't believe what happened. The other day, right in the middle of making these videos about her plane crash, and the cat was playing with something in the floor the other day, and I went over and said, "What have you got?" And she had this. Look at this. It's a little thumb drive for my wife's Fitbit from work for her health stuff. It's tiny, tiny. You can see how small it is. It's smaller than my finger, but it's just a little tiny thumb drive. And she asked to put the Fitbit stuff on my computer so she could track stuff. And the cat had this, and so I was thinking, well, I could use this and put, you know, some music on or whatever for just storing stuff. So I thought, well, before I wipe it out, let me see what's on it. And I stuck it in the computer, and somehow that interview with Mom from 10 years ago was on this thing. It was incredible. I thought it was lost. That computer was gone, and I've kicked myself. I've been making these videos reading from her book, and I have just thought, man, I wish I had the video that I made 10 years ago. We were supposed to make a new one, but now I've got it. It was on this thumb drive, and that's what you're about to see. Mom's plane crash coming from Mom herself. Now my sisters, both of my sisters claim, even though Mom's dead, she's responsible for this. They said if Mom had a way to get her story out after she was dead, they're claiming Mom made the cat drag this out from somewhere. Okay, now I don't know if that's true or not, but that's why I titled this episode Mom Speaks from the Dead. It's about her plane crash out of her own mouth. Now here you go. Here's Mom.
I'm Rick's mom, and I just wanted to tell a little bit about a plane crash that we had back in '04. And we'd saved our money for quite a while, and we had been married 20 years. So we decided, well, let's go to Hawaii. I just could never imagine going, so I started getting my books out and looking, and you know, so every minute counted. And we stayed, I think it was 3 weeks and seen 3 islands. And on the last day of our vacation, we went to this little place that rents out airplanes. I won't give its name. But I had a funny feeling. You know how you get when something's not quite right. So the man that owned the place, he was sitting there, and I asked him a little bit about the pilot. And he said, well, she's the best pilot I have. And I said, well, then that should be pretty safe. He said, oh yeah. He said, you will have no trouble. So we watched the plane that we were going to go out in come in with a different pilot. And in that plane was a mom and a dad, a daughter and a son. And they got out, and they was all happy, where they had been around and got to see all the volcanoes. So I thought, well, it's going to be all right. But then when we went out, it was a young lady. But he told me she was the best he had. So I thought, I'll, you know, get over it yourself. You're always thinking of something. So we got in, and the weather, it got cloudy, and I told the pilot, I said, you really can't see anything. She said, oh, it'll get better. She wasn't flying with instruments or anything like that. She was flying by pure sight. So I had my camera with me, and I was taking some pictures. I left my video camera in our rental car, and so I was taking pictures, and it started to rain and kind of storm a little. And I think 2 different times I asked her, do you think we should go back? Because we were leaving the next morning, and they knew that. So they knew that we wouldn't be scheduled, and this trip cost like close to $500. And they wasn't wanting to give that back. So she said, the sun will be shining over the next mountain. So we thought, oh, she probably knows better than we do. So just all of a sudden, she got in a cloud. Couldn't see anything. Couldn't see a thing. So I asked her again to, go back. Well, about that time, she came out of that cloud. And oh my God, there it was. There was this huge, big volcano. And the volcano was like, well, so anyway, we come out of that cloud, and there it was. She says, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but we're going to crash. And she pulled back on that thing to try to make it go up over the mountain, because the mountain was still way high. But the fire and everything, you know how it runs over, it was still right there. So we started clipping trees. I didn't even have time to really think and say, oh, God be with us. But He was. He was surely with us. This is where me and my son parts. She says, well, we're going to crash. Well, there was this great big rock. And when she pulled up on that thing, it went smack against that rock. Didn't break apart, didn't catch on fire. I thought, God, we're going to walk out of this crash with nothing wrong. So we go to get out of the plane. The fire had already started. It had broke loose under the gas tank where my husband sat. And the fire started up in his seat. And he was fooling with the seatbelt, and all of our seatbelts locked, and we couldn't budge. So I looked behind me to see if there was a fire extinguisher. Nothing. There was nothing to fight that fire with. And thank God my husband was a big man. And it burnt so bad, it burnt this, which hand was it, Dallas? Left?
Right.
Right hand, burned it clear off, and it was hanging here. And he was still trying to do the seat belt. So finally he took his weight, and he put his weight into that seat belt. And oh, that seat belt broke and went clear in him. He's got a bad spot right here on him where you could still, it like to never healed. Well, anyway, he broke that belt, but he couldn't open the door. His hand was gone. So the pilot had to reach around him, open the door, so he could get out. Well, then she got out, and I was sitting back behind the pilot. And it's like they were shocked, stunned, what? It took them a few minutes to think, hey, my wife's still back there. Well, by this time, I was still fiddling with my belt. My feet caught on fire. My shoes burned off my feet. So I kicked them off. And he was just coming back, and I got my belt loose and stepped out of the plane. And the volcano, instead of being one of those nice smooth ones, it had spikes like needles, like this. And I couldn't walk on it. My feet were burned, and he couldn't help me. His hand was gone. He said, we gotta run, we gotta run. We only been up 15 minutes, and this plane, it's gonna burst into flames. It's gonna fly. You got to run, you got to run. So the pilot finally gave me her shoes. And I put the shoes on. So we got to moving, but about that time, I say, oh my God, he said, the biggest, baddest rainstorm you ever seen in your life. I'm telling you, it poured down to where we were burned. I were burned on my arms. My hands were all burned. Burned up this arm. Got my hair. Got my eyebrows. Got my mouth. Had to be worked on. And that water, it just put that fire out. Well, by that time, my mind's not working too good either. The plane operator, she said, well, I'm going to walk and see if I can find somebody. Because the only communication we had was a cell phone, my husband's. And all she wanted to do was get on and call her company. That's all she was concerned with. She didn't have a clue where we were. They didn't know where to find us or anything. And I know she thought we were going to die because I was burnt all over my legs, hands, face, hair. And my husband was burnt 60% of his body from his waist up.
Can I show Dallas real quick?
Yes, he had to have...
Just real quick, Dallas
he
sitting right
had
here.
numerous skin grafts. 144 skin grafts.
109.
109, sorry. 109. Probably felt like 144. But she left us. And we're both diabetics, and I knew he was getting ready to go under. And the wind was hitting us, where we was soaking wet, we was ice cold. I went back to the plane and felt it and see if any possibility where we could crawl inside. Because it burned it totally, all it left was a shell. So I got him in about halfway. And I got in to see if I could snuggle up to him a little bit. Well, we didn't go on the flight till 4:30. This was in April. And I thought, oh my God, it's starting to get dark. And when it gets dark, they're going to quit hunting. They're not going to hunt till morning. So I told him, I said, Dallas, I said, they might make one more go-round to find us. But after that, if they don't find us, we're going to die on the mountain. I'd already asked God to take me. I'm ready. My kids are all solid. They're all doing good. And that's all I've ever wanted. I raised 4 kids by myself. It wasn't an easy job, but I did it. I think I raised 4 pretty good kids. So anyway, it just got worse and worse. And about 30 minutes later, it sounded like in the distance I could hear helicopter click, 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 click. And I said, Dallas, I think I hear a helicopter. I said, you got to make them see us or we're going to die on the mountain. He got up and he had his burned t-shirt. It was black. I guess the helicopter people thought we were black people. And we were white, of course. But he got out on top of that burned out plane and he waved that t-shirt and was hollering as loud as he could. And the people in the helicopter said, oh my God. He had his speakers on. Look down there, look down there. Said, that plane is burnt completely out and there's people alive. There is people alive. So they lowered a man on a chain, and just like you see on TV. Every time I watch TV now, I just about have to turn those shows off. But they wanted to take Dallas first because he was burnt the worst. And he wouldn't do it. He said, He said, you have to take her first. Take her first. So they didn't want to argue with him, so they just loaded me in the cart, the chain thing, just dumped me out, kind of rough, but I'm glad. And he flew out maybe 200 yards, feet, dumped fuel, and came back and got my husband. If it wasn't for these men, I believe his name was Wilson, we wouldn't be here today. We just would not be here today. And you don't know how many times I've just wanted to be able to say, thank you, you saved our lives. You saved our lives. But I didn't know and don't know how to go about doing that. But they got us back to the one hospital. They couldn't keep us. All they could do, I remember them saying, Mrs. Ratcliffe, we're going to cut your rings off your hand. I said, fine, go ahead, cut my rings off my hand. Well, that's the last I remember. Well, Dallas was a little more alert, so they was asking Dallas questions about our doctor. So they got the doctor's number out of him. So in the meantime, they're calling Dr. Susan Bodzo in Portsmouth, Ohio. And that's where we lived. And just strange. My young sister went to the doctor that day. She said, I looked around, there was no one here. And she said, she heard the phone ring in the back. Said, about 5 minutes, here come the nurse. And said, Donna, what are you doing here today? And she said, I have a doctor appointment. They said, you don't have a doctor appointment today. You got one tomorrow. But, Donna, I'm sorry, I got something I've got to tell you. She said, your sister was and brother-in-law was in a crash. Well, automatic, my sister thought car crash. And she said, no, plane crash. And she said, oh, she just kind of just went down to her seat. And they wanted to know then if she would get hold of the children. And she did. Mary, my oldest one that works at Rex Hospital, she got the phone call. Well, I have another daughter that's over administration on 4 East. So my daughter was running and screaming and crying up through the halls. People was wondering what's going on. And she ran into Jackie's office, and Jackie thought, my God, sis, what happened? What happened? She calls her sis. She said, Mom and Big D was in a plane crash, and they don't think they're going to live. Matter of fact, they said they probably won't be alive when you get here. So be preparing yourself for something like you've never seen. And now I just have to take hearsay. This is not what I know now, because I'm out. I was out for 5 weeks, solid out. They kept me out because of the pain. But the kids come in. I don't even think my oldest son could come in, because he had been burned when he was 9 years old. And we went through about 12 years of that.
I had a cold. I didn't want to kill you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to kill you with my cold.
And so when they come in, they said it was horrible, horrendous. They wouldn't let anyone take any pictures. They said our heads were swelled so big and the skin was so thin, and we just looked like monsters. We didn't look like, and of course they could talk to.
They were this big. You couldn't even recognize her.
And it was, of course, frightful for them. So Rex Hospital was so wonderful to those girls. They got to stay the whole 6 weeks that we was in Hawaii in the hospital. Straub Hospital in Honolulu is one of the best hospitals I ever seen. Don't think we didn't go through pain and torture there. We did. But we did not get one infection. I guess every day, I didn't know till I woke up, but every day they took us to the bleach and saltwater bath. Wouldn't have anything on, and they'd lower us in the water. And when they did, they scrubbed all of this. They scrubbed it. And I don't care how much they give you to cover pain, we both cried. We cried. It was horrendous. And when finally they started letting off of the medicine, it was over 5 weeks. I hooked up every which way. I was hooked up rectally. Had a catheter down my throat. They had tubes down my throat. And when the doctor came in, I asked if I could please have the tubes out of my throat. And he said, if you promise me you'll eat. I said, I'll eat. He said, you promise you won't vomit it up. I said, I won't. So they brought me some food, and of course, first thing I did, up it came. So they didn't put the tubes back in, but they brought me like lighter weight stuff, and after about the third time it started starting down. They hadn't taken none of this other stuff out. So the nurse came in and I said, I gotta have a bowel movement. I hate to talk about these things, people, but it's just the real thing. It was awful. She said, no you don't. That was one sharp thing I got over there, but she really, I guess, thought no I wouldn't, because they had something up in there that could catch it all. So when she left, I guess I'm bullheaded because I couldn't sit there and go in the bed. I crawled down to the bottom of the bed, and my bed was close to the wall. So I reached over to the wall, and I managed to get on the commode. And oh my God, if she'd have had to clean that up, she'd have wished she'd have took me. So the doctor come in, and I said, can we take that out? And he said, yes, we'll take that out. And then a little while later, I asked if the, what's it called, the catheter, if he'd take it out, and he took it out. Well, I started turning around after they did all that, after 5 weeks. And my husband still wasn't well enough to leave, but he thought I was well enough that I could go to the room and stay with the girls, that I had turned it around that much. So when the girls come in, I said, I get to go back to the hotel with you. Oh, Mom, they said, you're just not thinking right. You're just not thinking right. And about that time, the doctor came in and said, yes, she could go back with you for about a week. And then I got to go back, but we took the bus back that next day to visit Dallas, and I thought I was going to die. I was in a wheelchair, and every bump they hit. And when I got there, I tried to explain to him, Dallas, I can't make it every day. I just can't do it. I was just in so much pain. And so, finally, and of the night, the girls could take me out in a wheelchair after the sun went down, and I couldn't go anywhere because we'd been all over the TV and the news. People would want to stop and ask me questions, and I tried to be nice and polite, and the people in Hawaii are spiritual people. I'll tell you what, if you can go and never seen such beauty, except what happened to us, and maybe it happened, God had a reason, because we pulled out of it pretty good, and I don't look too bad. My husband doesn't look too bad. Now his chest does, and his arms does. Looks horrible. But then we had to try to go through our bills were over $1.5 million. So then we had to go through that. But that's all boring stuff, and trying to get some money out of it's boring stuff. Needless to say. No. Oh yeah, the company, the plane had $1,000 medical. That's what they had. And then later on, I had a lawyer that was tried to deal with them. I'll tell you, he got a little bit out of them, but not enough to pay all the medical bills. So we come out of that.
And he did it for no charge.
He did it for no charge because we had no money. And this was a lawyer from California, and he was getting ready to retire. But he took this case and spent 2 years of it, and at least we got medical bills paid. We got the rest of the medical bills paid, but we didn't get you know, something when the days are still bad and still all the doctor bills we're having that we got to pay out of our pocket, which adds up to quite a bit. But my daughters, they kept us 7 months day and night when we got out of Straub. Never heard a complaint. It would take them 3 hours to dress Dallas after they worked 12-hour shifts. They would come home and they would do it together. But he never got an infection and I never got an infection. And I'm sure God's give them many crowns in heaven. They can even have mine, if I got any. So, but that's about all I got to say and can think about right now is that truly I've been blessed.
You done?
And
All right.
Well, that's it. That's Mom's story. It's unbelievable how that just appeared out of nowhere after 10 years. 10 years it's come back to us, this story. Anyway, there's going to be a part 5, okay, about the people of Hawaii and how good they were to our family. But I probably won't do that till we come back from our trip, because I only got 10 more days before we leave, and we're going to be gone an entire month. And I'm trying to get things ready and, you know, everything. I gotta get 2 more videos put out. I got the last video from the last trip to put out about the Route 66 Museum, and I was going to do a battery about the tag camper, or a video about the tag camper and the new battery, the type of battery you should put in your tag camper. So so that's it. Watch for part 5. I'll put it on in about I don't know, 5 weeks. So see you later.